MSD podcast, Tactical Control and Restraint. Tactical Control and Restraint is part of detainee handling in military self-defense and military close quarters combat. There are considerable differences between military detainee handling and police and security tactical control and restraint prisoner handling. I will outline these differences as we go through this file. I will begin with an outline of my early days of control and restraint training. At the Bulldog Institute, in my early days of training, through wrestling, self-defense, and jiu-jitsu training, there were various components that included control and restraint. I really wasn't that interested in control and restraint training in those early days, simply because unless you had a superior size and strength advantage, often the techniques were difficult to apply and simply didn't work. My practical mindset during such training was always trying to think like the bad guy. What would I do if someone grabbed me like this? And very quickly, I determined that some of the traditional techniques of holding, restraining, and securing put you at considerable risk. And if you were at a weight, height, size, and strength disadvantage, some of the skills simply would not work well. A lot of the techniques were based on traditional fighting arts or combat sports and required a lot of things to be in your favor and an even playing field, as in weight categories, age divisions, and genders. As a bouncer and lead crowd controller, I had plenty of opportunity to have to restrain and remove people from pubs and clubs, and I certainly found out hands-on what would work and what wouldn't work. In training, I was always thinking, how would the bad guy react to someone seizing and securing him in this manner? And on the job, on the door, I was always thinking ahead and looking for what the bad guy was up to, what he was trying to do, and what dangers he presented, and how to effectively deal with them. It really came down to using my bag of dirty tricks when I had to seize and secure and remove anyone that was formidable or presented a threat. This was the best way of taking care of business with the limited skill set I had back in those early days. It wasn't until Harry Bulldog started teaching me his military unarmed combat and military self-defense that I learnt very different methods of detainee handling, how to effectively approach, seize and secure a subject and contain and control them to the point where they were unable to present a major threat to me. It no longer mattered so much about disadvantages or adverse skills employment situations, as the MIL detainee handling practices provided advantages in the setup and employment of restraining skills. I was getting a considerable amount of real-time hands-on practice on the job, restraining punters at clubs and pubs. In fact, at one stage there, I got RSI through the amount of control and restraint skills I was applying under duress, removing belligerent punters from these pubs and clubs. In the mid-1980s, when Harry Bulldog recommended I travel to New York and train with Charles Nelson, I got a look at his methods of control and restraint that were similar to Harry Bulldog's, and this got me a whole lot more interested in tactical control and restraint. The skills were practical, factored in safety, security, and had commonality with the self-defense and close quarters combat skills. This made for easy escalation of skills capabilities if the threat or situation changed. And in fact, Charlie Nelson used to say, any restraint skill should easily be able to be adapted to be a killing or incapacitation type skill. Over my more than 10 years of training at the Charles Nelson School of Self-Defense, I really enjoyed the control and restraint training and could see the practicalities and effectiveness of it. Over the past 25 plus years, I have continued with my work in the development of tactical control and restraint skills and tactics and procedures, including for team employments of such skills, to the point where they are all-encompassing tradecraft skills to enable dealing with belligerent, violent subjects, maximizing safety and controlling containment. The reasons for the requirement to develop new skills or make adjustments to previous skills has been changes in society, where often those that are hired in positions where self-defense and effective control and restraint are required do not have the physical capabilities. Other reasons included some of the skill sets I learnt stopped at restraining and containment, but did not go into decentralization, employment of mechanical restraints, or rapid extraction, for example. While team restraints are the primary practice when it comes to restraining belligerent, dangerous subjects, often we know this is not possible and single operator restraints become a necessity. There are different types of restraints for different roles, duties, and situations. They include head and arm restraining, neck restraining, arms restraining, rapid decentralization restraints, and other options. In a single operator restraint, neck restraints or head and arm restraints are an effective or more effective means simply because you can, by easier means, control and contain the subject. Such restraining skills require the operator to be highly competent and confident and understand medical aspects and safety issues. If they are, in fact, highly professional and capable, the risks are reasonably low. It is the abuse or misuse of such skills that increases risk. Arm restraints require a knowledge of the anatomy and of leverage, as well as best means of joint manipulation, and sometimes the use of pain compliance. Deliberate, controlled employments of arm restraints provide the capability to gradually increase leverage or decrease it if required. Having same system skills that share commonality and are cohesive enables transitions from one restraint skill to another, or for rapid extraction or decentralization, including changes of arm restraint to increase safety and security or apply pain compliance. Understanding that the very reason you have to control and restrain, decentralize, or extract someone is because they are presenting a risk and are problematic. And as such, this requires specific tactics and skills to effectively enable the application of control and restraint skills. The RATS acronym is an important part of the application of control and restraint skills. It means restraint application tactics, and these are required to effectively employ skills to control an aggressive offender. Methods of approach, lines of approach, angles, positions, range are all important parts under the RATS acronym for safety-proven tactics in the employment of offender restraint, control, and containment. Part of the RATS tactics and skills is the use of deception, distractions, and contact skills to remove the offender's focus from the limb that is going to be restrained. Such tactics and skills can interfere with their focus, their stability, cause pain, distraction, and incapacitation to the point where they are much easier to control and restrain. There are specialist-specific detainee handling skills for specialist law enforcement like SWAT and for close personal protection, where a subject may have to be controlled, restrained, and contained and handed over to law enforcement authorities. There are specialist skills for various medical roles, including the handling of EDPs or forensic patients, as well as pediatrics. Some such roles and duties require the manipulation of the subject to put them in a position where procedures can be safely and effectively employed, or where restraint devices can be put on. This may require the standing movement or decentralized movement and positioning, rolling of the offender to effectively make transitions safe and secure. Restraint transitions must be seamless, they must be secure, and they must enable transition not only from arm restraint to arm restraint, but from neck restraint or head and arm restraint to arm restraint and vice versa. Maintaining communication with the subject is very important. Instructions and orders must be simple, direct, and easy to understand. This is important to ensure them that they are, as long as they comply, in a safe situation and not to unnecessarily resist or try and escape. Understanding the anatomy and medical implications is very important when restraining a subject, so you do not put them in a position of panic and adverse reaction, but maintain, through controlled leverage and restraint, a safe and secure position and status. Team detainee handling is a very specific role and set of duties that requires formations to be exact in relation to range and position, and for all members to respect the chain of command and also be capable of taking over any role, including a lead role, should that be required. Team members must be able to read body language, identify danger signs and warnings, and utilize hand signaling and other signaling covert discrete methods to keep the team working in unison and all understanding what is happening and what is required of them and what they're going to do. They must know what to do without being told, under threat and immediate actions on. They must know the direction they must move in, and they must take responsibility for their arcs of responsibility and come to the aid of other operators when they are needed. In high-risk detainee handling, operators must know how to use their disarming skills as part of tactical control and restraint. They must be able to identify the subject attempting to draw a weapon and prevent it being drawn, or disarm them of their weapon under a controlled containment if required. MIL detainee handling includes skills for vehicular and aircraft operations, and also as part of clearing rooms and providing special search teams with capabilities to control and restrain subjects they may find until they are identified as friendlies or as enemy. Tactical detainee handling requires considerable training, learning the skills individually and then in combination form so they are cohesive and can be employed or used as transitions from one skill to another. It requires considerable hands-on training and developing competency in the tactics, in the application of the skills, as well as being able to fill any role or void in an actions-on application of tactical control and restraint skills. A most important part of detainee handling is the individual operator's mental toughness, inner resolve, intestinal fortitude, and their confidence and capability to employ their skills in high-risk situations. This is how their team members have confidence in them and respect them. Without this mental toughness, the skills are simply high risk through closing on an enemy and attempting to seize or secure them without the required controlled aggression, tactics and skills needed to keep them safe and effectively achieve the objective of controlled containment, movement, decentralization, or the employment of mechanical restraints and removal of the subject. The TOD group provides tactical control and restraint training at all three phases, with expanded training in Phase 2 Advanced as it incorporates clinching and closing with the enemy, controlling and containing of them, as well as moving and rapid decentralization and the employment of control and restraint devices. Utilizing the enemy's own body against and for the protection against their extremities, as in strikes or kicks, is a very important part of tactical control and restraint. Closing and utilizing your body to manipulate the secured enemy so they are in a position of static control and can be manipulated by using your body mass to force them in the required direction or by using pain compliance is all part of the effective tactics of restraining a high-risk offender. Operators need to understand the risks and dangers of approaching a subject from the front and applying control and restraint skills over approaching from the side or rear and applying the same skills. However, they must be able to apply skills from all positions and directions as part of situational requirements or in team control and restraint skills executions. The initial seizing and securing of a subject must be in relation to maximum safety and control, restraint and containment, as in applying an overhand grip to seize and secure the wrist over an underhand grip, and after achieving an overhand seizure of the wrist, applying an underhand seizure of the upper arm humerus to effectively apply control and restraint of opposing forces to achieve the best results and maintain safety by utilizing the subject's side and rear as cover and protection against their opposite side free arm. It is important for international exponents applying for course joining of either our TOD Group HQ or Camp TOD and our international hub country of Thailand courses to let us know if control and restraint is a tradecraft subject that they require expertise in, so they can be included as auxiliary training on our exported or HQ or camp tiled courses. A very important part of MIL detainee handling training is the ability to employ contingency options to deal with changes in threat and situation, including increased risks. This will enable the operator to be able to prevent being contacted with or the enemy escaping and evading or dropping to the ground as part of trying to escape a restraint skill. Being fully versed in such contingency options will ensure maintained safety, security, and will enable the removal or decentralization and the application of mechanical restraints without losing control of the situation.
The military detainee handling skills I was instructed in and those that I've developed for the military work on excessive force, sudden aggressive shock actions, and skills that aid in the setup by offsetting stability, ringing the enemy's bell, as in changing their channel to the point where they lose visual and mental focus for that point in time and leave them vulnerable to being restrained. Such skills can fall outside the realm of policing or civilian laws of self-defense, but for the battlefield or urban action on environments where the risk is high and it can come down to, if you get it wrong, being wounded or killed, the skills need to be heavy-handed. They need to incapacitate, subdue, daze, or injure the enemy to the point that they can be effectively restrained, contained, controlled, and removed. Cleaning someone's clock as part of detainee handling is a accepted tradecraft practice that provides considerable advantages. Similarly, hyperextending extremities or targeting delicate human bodily sensors or life support systems are all parts of military detainee handling in a high-risk environment. The detainee handling skills that the late Colonel Applegate developed for OSS operators during World War II were extremely hard and heavy hitting. Often the enemy would be concussed and pliable after these set-up skills were employed, and he would effectively apply control and restraint skills from in front of the enemy by using such hard, heavy hitting set-up rats. A number of the detainee handling skills I developed for regular Army detainee handling utilised body loading of extremities and the employment of detainee handling skills utilising the knee or the boot to maximise objective achievement. Charlie Nelson had been described as a master of body mechanics in regards to his knowledge of the manipulation of joints as part of control and restraint and with his self-defence system. MIL detainee handling has to share cohesive commonality with our CQC, unarmed combat and MIL self-defence skills, and as such provides the capability to change objective or means of achieving objective by increasing or decreasing the level of intensity and levels of contact. I consider myself very fortunate and privileged to have been trained by 3 leading military experts in their fields and have taken on the role of continuing with the development of the doctrine and the development of tactics and skills, including for detainee handling and for law enforcement, defensive tactics and control and restraint. This file has been an outline of some such tradecraft training.